The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
It's a regular old show, ladies and gentlemen. We're not going live today because it's the day after Thanksgiving and literally nobody is actually live the day after Thanksgiving. That's a rule. We're not. You're not. Hopefully you're finding time to listen to a podcast, but you got all weekend if you need it because it's Friday. And that means we're going over the big topics of the week, and that also means you got two of us for the whole damn show. You're stuck. I'm Dan Besbris. I'm joined by the founder of Hoop Ball, the great Aaron Brewski. We are recording this in the very late morning, so I'm going to say good morning, Aaron, but I think you'd prefer I wish you a good afternoon.
Please do. I'd like to forget this morning of pain and suffering post-Thanksgiving.
Good
Happy
afternoon.
Thanksgiving, everybody, though. Happy Thanksgiving. But yeah, no, the pain. It's the pain.
The pain is real. The pain is real.
Pain is real.
How was your Thanksgiving? What did you do besides
Gluttony.
overindulge?
Yeah, it was just gluttony. Just basic gluttony. It was fun. There was a lot of, everybody enjoys to drink with me. I think they don't get to see me enough. So they're like, oh, let's push this guy to the limits. And it's like, oh, yeah, maybe not.
How's your tolerance these days? I feel like as a younger man.
Good.
Yeah.
It's not good. That's the biggest problem here. I'm probably 3 beers and feeling pretty good. And they are more like feeling good after 8 or 9.
No.
Beers.
8 or 9, you'd have to wheelbarrow
drinks.
me. You'd have to wheelbarrow me straight to the hospital. And 8 or 9.
Yeah, I'm like old, and you get the young kids that are, they want to drink more because that's their thing, and then you got the old, the old war horses that are like, doing this kind of like me, like once every year probably, and but they want to get their money's worth, and so here we are, and that's before the eating part, because the eating. Oh, man, we're going to get old on this podcast. The eating, you used to, as a young man, be able to eat whatever the hell you wanted, and there was no pain.
Yeah, that's been a while for me on that one. I turned to old like the day I graduated college, and my digestive system went right with it.
So, yeah, it's a painful morning. But you know what was nice? There was morning basketball.
Mm-hmm.
It was 2 teams that, to me, aren't interesting anymore because they've leveled out in fantasy. But they're 2 teams I like to watch in general. So it got me going. And we got 28 games in action, or 28 teams in action tonight. So no rest for the weary. And I'm looking forward to it. It's a nice little day after Thanksgiving holiday.
The quantity of teams playing Wednesday and today is a little bit overwhelming. It is kind of nice, actually, that 2 teams knocked it out in the early going. So at least we only have to watch 26 the rest of the day. And it's a damn shame you said that Brooklyn and Minnesota are not that interesting because they are, well, mostly Minnesota, not so much Brooklyn. Minnesota is on my list of teams to talk about and among our hot topics on today's show. And we're going to get to that momentarily. I will say, though, Brew, I kind of miss the days of just general run-of-the-mill gluttony on Thanksgiving because now our Thanksgiving is just general run-of-the-mill, like trying to get to multiple Thanksgivings with a toddler, and
that's terrible.
Oh yes, the gluttony has taken a. It's not even in the backseat. It's like in the old station wagons from the '90s, where the kids face out the back of the car. That's where the gluttony is now. It's way back of the automobile.
This was actually the first year that we didn't have to go to 2 places. So
that sounds so nice.
In a while, and I would say it made everything so much better.
The rush is just so stressful.
It's not right. It's to go to 2 places and everybody's got to do it. Not everybody, but a lot of people got to do it. That's just it, on that particular day. And then I got to give out food to the homeless. Yesterday.
Look at that!
Yeah,
Brew
that was
and
cool.
Obama. You guys are sharing a Thanksgiving, huh?
I didn't, we didn't call each other and swap plans or anything like that,
So
or
you didn't
compare
meet
what
up.
we were going to do.
That's excellent. Good job.
Yeah, it was cool. The first time ever doing that. So that was fun. But I'm excited. Like, there's a lot of, God, maybe it's just the fact there's 28 teams playing, but there is just so much stuff going on in fantasy leagues. I don't even know what to grab. Like, if I write the Daily Dish tonight.
Heaven help you.
I don't. Yeah, I actually don't know if I'm going to be able to do it because there's so many games. but the just there's like so much to grab at. So I don't know what your notes are like, but
Well,
I look at this stuff and I go, where do we start?
lucky you. I've written down my top things, and we're just going to get to them as I see fit. And you already mentioned Minnesota, so we'll just start there, and we'll loop back around to whatever the hell else I got on my list at some point. Minnesota, basically one thing left to talk about there, and we've just kind of been tracking it on this podcast since the trade went down, and that is, how do Taj and Dario Saric coexist at the power forward spot? The initial hope was, obviously, that Taj would soak up some backup center minutes, but to this point, it's been all Gorgie Jeng at center. To, I think, everybody's surprise, Tom Thibodeau hasn't yanked him out of the rotation yet, and he actually played pretty well this morning with Towns in foul trouble.
Gorgie line today.
He did. He didn't play much in the second half because Towns got into foul trouble in the first half, but Taj is all power forward. So is Dario Saric. Someone else, I think, may have even logged a couple of power forward minutes. Rob Covington in this ball game from this morning. But so far, I think since the trade now, I think it's Dario 3 games and Taj 2 where they've played more minutes than the other. And in this one, it was pretty damn lopsided, too. Taj had a double-double, 3 steals, a block, 6 out of 7 shooting. This was, of course, in his hometown. He's a Brooklynite. And Saric, very far from his hometown in this ball game. He played 16 minutes, had 3 points, 2 rebounds. I honestly, at this point, Brew, the advice I've given people on this podcast to this point has been just hold on to both and see if either guy can separate himself. But after a week and a half, so far, neither one has. So what kind of patience do we exercise with this whole thing?
I mean, so in a standard 12-team league, I don't think you're going to wait on Dario Saric. Tibbs is so easy to read on when he likes a guy or not. So like Robert Covington is just going to get 5 million minutes and that's going to be that. But Taj is not going to get benched and it's going to probably oscillate every night. And Saric, he has 2 gears. You know, his rookie year, he had the kind of gear he's in right now where there's just a lot of emptiness to the stat set. When he got fully engaged last year, it was a focal point. He was great. And, you know, owners rode that to a nice little win. We're getting Dario from 2 years ago. So this, I think you can cut bait in a 14-teamer if you have about 190 players, say, is very common, deeper 12-team league. Like you might hold on and just kind of see if he can regain mid-round form somehow, you know, maybe injury or if they turn the switch on. But I don't know that switch is turning on anytime soon. So yeah, no, I think you got to cut bait there. And Taj, you know, I probably, especially in like a 9-cap format, I probably wait a tiny bit longer just to see, does he really complete this as a 26, 28-minute guy and give you solid late-round value with that? I think it's possible that he does that.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting as well. And this then, you know, the hometown game, we'll see if that tilts it back in his favor more permanently or if, like you said, it just keeps bouncing back and forth. Might as well stay out east and move just across the river. The New York Knicks. Every time we do a show, Brew, they have a brand new starting lineup. Don't know if that's happening today, but it did happen earlier this week. And we've seen a resurgence of Noah Vonleh. We've seen Mitchell Robinson go nuts in very limited minutes off the bench. We've seen Trey Burke get lava hot over a couple game stretch again. This has happened before. This is like a hair-pulling situation right here. And his Cantor, of course, also back into the starting lineup now as well. It's all kinds of goofy because, you know, we saw Burke, he started the year hot, and then he disappeared for a while. Now he's going crazy. Noah Vonleh, he seems to be a little bit more of a one-to-one thing. Like, if he's in the starting lineup, he seems like he's going to be okay. If he's off the bench, he's not going to be okay. That one's a little more trackable. But like with Burke, he's coming off the bench and he's playing big minutes and taking a ton of shots. Kevin Knox looks like he's searching for a fantasy profile. Mitchell Robinson, we know his fantasy profile, but if his minutes are never going to get higher than 17, at least not in the early portion, that makes him a little bit tougher to use, not that tough to hold. Where do we go? What are we looking for? Who can we dump? Who should we grab? What, like, if you're in a games cap format, does that change things versus unlimited games? And does this matter in 2 days when they change their starting lineup again?
That sounded exhausting, Dan. Are you okay after that?
No, I threw my back out.
Damn. Okay. So the one that's standing out to me that I'm looking at and I'm thinking maybe there could be something there is Vonleh. He just seems to have more oomph, than in previous years. And this expansion into the money counting stat categories is possibly enough to give him a serviceable floor throughout all the chaos, because it's going to be chaos. They're going to go mix 5 million lineups out there because front office is crazy. And, I think Fizdale is basically kind of a change your mind 5 times, during the course of the week kind of guy. So, but with Vonleh, though, he does fill a need that they have, in the power forward sort of center realm of player with NBA experience that can also be physical. Robinson is running around just blocking shots like crazy. And to that point earlier, he's got to be held. I don't care what you got to do. I don't care what your league size is. This is to get 6 blocks in a game in 16 minutes and to know that can happen any night. Like, that's just too much. Like, you could single-handedly dominate, possibly, we don't really know what he's capable of. But the way he's blocking shots, I wonder if he got a 30-minute roll, if we saw some crazy block number like 4.5, something like that. 5. I don't know what his ceiling is, because he's out there basically with a license to just go run around and chase blocks. That doesn't seem like a team that would pull him back. The downside to doing that is all the weak side glass is open. You give up a lot of rebounds. I don't think anybody cares right now. And you got a guy in Cantor who, can sort of, even though they won't play that much together, he could sort of balance that out. You could be strong on the glass for a little bit, but if you got a team that penetrates, you can bring in Robinson and have him protect the rim. So I don't know. Knox, no. Burke, sure. He's a good enough player to where when he's hot and on, you can at least have faith that he's good enough to do that. But they're very, quickly could just, throw like Frank Ntilikina at point guard or something. Heck, why not? It's the Knicks. And then, that could get in the way of Trey Burke's mojo. So I think Vonleh and Burke are at least on the radar for me. Vonleh more than Burke. And Knox, no. All the other characters, no. Hezonja, no. Hezonja's terrible.
Yeah, he really is.
He's just a bad basketball player.
He took a lot of bad shots in that game on Wednesday, which surprised the hell out of me. It's like, look, you should be trying to make an impression, and he's out there just chucking. It's like, screw it.
Terrible shots.
Terrible shots. He went 1 for 7.
He might be the worst player in the league right now. And I just crack up because they wanted him so bad in Sacramento.
Oh, that was a bullet dodged for your hometown Sacramento Kings, which brings us to our next topic on the list. Thanks for that segue, by the way. The Kings. There has been some adjustments by the league, but Sacramento continues to play well. Bogdan Bogdanovic, he got up to 30 minutes in his last ball game, so he's starting to settle in terms of health. We had this weird back and forth about who's actually steering the ship, and then suddenly Marvin Bagley's playing more. Nemanja Bjelica has actually had 2 good games in a row, but his minutes haven't been that high, which is somewhat of a letdown. And the real surprise for me over the last little bit is the lasting impact of Iman Shumpert. I did not see that coming. I'm more than willing to admit that, but he's actually been pretty good for that team. What's the next step for the Kings in terms of a fantasy side? Are we settling in now? Is this what it's going to be?
It is settling, and all of the leaky reporting stuff that happened, really, it diffused, and this is, for the fantasy listeners, this is really going inside baseball for Kings stuff, but the whole Matina and Brandon Williams stuff, being reported by Sam Amick in The Athletic was a really big step in the story's progression, because she's been a big driving force of what goes on around there, a controversial one at that. And with the leak, most people think it came from Brandon Williams. Nobody can prove that. And what it did is it put this who's steering the ship question on the front burner, and now everybody's got to back off because the timing of doing that was terrible. And Dave Yeager has had a really good year coaching, and it's crazy. It's really fun. That's not crazy. It's fun to watch the same personnel basically, but without the one glaring thing that nobody in Sacramento was willing to discuss last year, which was Zach Randolph and what he was doing to destroy the team on the court, not off the court, on the court, and seeing, okay, this is what they would have been last year. And the progression there for guys like De'Aaron Fox is just amazing to watch. You saw him on film coming out of college. You're like, yeah, that guy can play. Then the question is, will he be able to shoot and will he be able to orchestrate an offense? And the answer is yes. And so now you have this dynamic package, like teams, aside from not being able to cover him in a half court setting, like he can take a made basket and run. And that dunk I put that went viral on Twitter was just a great example of that. Like if he gets going full speed, you can't run back with him. So teams are just really scattered defending this squad. And when you throw in somebody like Bogdanovich and Buddy Hield, though he can't make a layup to save his life, is being aggressive, trying to get layups, but shooting, he is a top 5 shooter in the league, easy. Like he's just that good of a shooter. So offensively, this is a juggernaut in the making. They've settled in fantasy wise, and somebody like Shumpert is just really interesting. And he's like the 5th most interesting thing on this team. It's almost as if Shumpert, when he came into the league as a point guard, it's almost like those years after that never happened. And he just sort of progressed and, as an offensive player, became this really dynamic, athletic, pull a jump shot off the dribble at any second kind of a guy. And he comes in here with all of the Cleveland reputation of being hurt and not really doing much on offense, being a non-factor on offense. He's come in and he's taking these really bad shots. They're going in, and everybody's sort of adjusting to the fact that, okay, actually he can make these shots and it's not that bad for him to do it kind of like, 8 times per game or 10 times per game. And if he gets red hot, like he has been, he's been an actual offensive threat as well, with also being able to bring the defensive side of the ball to the table. So you've got this, with Bogdanovich coming back, you've got this equilibrium that this team is playing in right now, where Shumpert's getting his minutes, Bogey's getting his minutes, Fox and Hield are getting their minutes, and at the power forward position, you almost have a workable split there as well, because Kosta Koufos has been hurt, and he was another guy that was hamstringing them last year and this year. He's out of the rotation, and that puts the Kings a little bit on blast in the middle, but they're better this way. And Bjelica can get his 25 minutes per game this way, and he can actually hang on to late round value when the Kings are playing this well, because he'll walk into open threes and he'll get a few steals and blocks and enough boards and just kind of being around the ball enough to make it all work. So I think they're like Shump is a late round value, Bjelica is a late round value. Bogdanovich has got probably top 50 upside. I was pegging it at top 75, but I think it's actually top 50 upside. Hield will cruise at top 50. Fox will cruise at top 50. And Bagley, unfortunately, will probably get enough minutes to be on the radar, but that foul shooting and the overall lack of consistency in the money counting stat categories is what's going to be what's going to hold him back. If you could deal with those issues, he's also playable. So I think this team, they're going to crush the win total projection. They're good. If they lose Fox, then all bets are off, because he really sets the table for everybody else. But they're good, and from a fantasy perspective, they're going to actually be really good this year. So, hat tip to the Kings.
Let's go to something a little bit easier for you here. We did some big ones out of the gate. I still have some other big ones mixed in, but I think this one is a little bit easier, and that is the point guards in San Antonio. Is this just a lost cause? Because I'm done with whatever's going on out there.
Yeah, something about Greg Popovich is pushing these guys over right now. It's happening to Pirtle. It's happening to Derek White. They're the same exact guys, but they're just not producing. And so there's like a friction there. I think Popovich said about Derek White that he needs to play like he belongs in the NBA. So it's a confidence thing. So whenever those guys snap out of it, they can be on the table. But for now, it's just Rudy Gay, DeMar DeRozan, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. That one was an easy one. That was my hope. I got a list in front of me, and I'm trying to pick them. Here's another relatively easy one, I think. The return of Jermichael Green in Memphis. It did seem like it briefly impacted Jaren Jackson Jr., and then they had a game where they were both in foul trouble. But there was a game in between there where Jaren Jackson played 36 minutes despite Jermichael Green being healthy. Is there any reason for concern for young Triple J? Is this going to chew into his minutes at all? Or is it, business as usual for a kid that looks great?
Yeah, he's going to deal with foul trouble. He dealt with foul trouble in the last one. He still even had a great line. It was 2 threes and I don't think he had a steal or a block, but 2 threes and 9 points in 12 minutes was he's giving you usable numbers in very bad nights. There's nothing to worry about with Triple J. He's going to be great. Jermichael could possibly get 25 minutes, but I don't think that's even going to hurt Triple J. And Kyle Anderson's back, by the way.
Yeah, slow-mo.
Glad you didn't drop him.
Just slowly came around little by little. He's still, I still get asked questions about him every once in a while. I think it's because he doesn't score at all, but I feel like people had to know that. He didn't score at all last year either. He's a guy you picked up because he rebounds, assists, and does a whole bunch of defensive stuff, and doesn't actually try to put the ball in the hoop. It's a very weird strategy.
38 minutes in the last one.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to assume that there's no minutes-based issue there.
It's hard to be a guy who scores 6 points a game and is a top 80 guy, but that's what he's done over the last 2 weeks because he has 8 rebounds, 4 assists, over a steal, over a block, only 1 turnover, and he's shooting 3 for 6 from the field. He's shooting 50%. He is a very interesting and fun fantasy guy. But you do kind of have to balance him, right? You need to have somebody on your team that's a scoring guy to make sure that you can sort of counterbalance that. You need to have somebody that scores 25 points a game. Kelly Oubre, that's where we're going next. We're going to Washington. I can't throw you back into a goofy one here. All right, the Wizards. I don't know how to present this one effectively on the day after Thanksgiving. They won a game.
They have no self-respect, so you could just fire away, man.
Okay, that's true. A lot of those guys do look like they had Thanksgiving one too many times in the offseason. But Markieff Morris is out of the starting lineup. Kelly Oubre is in. Day one of the Kelly Oubre experiment did not go particularly well for young Kelly. He picked up 5 fouls in 12 minutes, and we basically got no information on what that means. They did win the ball game, for whatever that's worth. It sounds like somebody is likely on the move.
Win for them, man. They were down 24 points in that game and pulled it off with everything going on. And I still don't think it matters to their locker room.
No, I'm not sure.
That would normally teams would rally around that. That might be the turning point.
Yeah, but man, they're a mess. They're a mess.
But Oubre should be owned. I mean, here's the thing. Oubre has this long history of being at least a late round guy when one of the main cogs goes out. Right now, Dwight Howard could barely walk, according to Candace Parker of the Washington Post, before the game that he was ruled out. He's been out since that game. It was 2 to 3 games ago. So, I mean, he's just old, and they're not going to take any chances because they can't. If they push him, he's going to then get hurt right away. So that means Kelly Oubre's got a very good chance of stepping into that kind of a addition by subtraction thing. But there's also the idea that maybe somebody like Otto Porter could be traded, and he kind of looks like the guy that might be on the way out just based on Scott Brooks' minutes. And you can't trade John Wall, and really you shouldn't trade Bradley Beal, and you probably can't trade Bradley Beal. So it's really, can you get anything for Otto Porter? And teams are probably calling on Kelly Oubre, but in the NBA, it's so funny. They never want to trade anything that's an escalating asset, and everybody's just trying to pawn off their crap on other teams. It's just like your fantasy league.
Yep.
And that's why deals don't get done. But Oubre is in the catbird seat for what could be like what you hope with Oubre is that one of those main cogs goes down on the usage side. Like a John Wall says, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to go get healthy this year and I'm not going to play. And then Oubre steps up into some serious value because his utilization is practically nothing. And really, he doesn't have much freedom out there on the court to do anything. If he gets that, then a lot of upside. What
do you make of this weird Jeff Green sighting we've had in Washington?
He's the new Kendrick Perkins. He's Scott Brooks's battle commander in that locker room. And that's cool. That plays, that's going to get him on the radar. But you can't bet on Jeff Green.
What if somebody gets moved? What if like Markieff Morris gets moved?
I don't know if Morris is like somebody they want to move. Like Morris is the kind of player coaches love. He would, punch you if there was not a rule against punching you, know? So
what about Thomas Satoransky? Is there any room there, or would Wall have to get moved?
They're going to try to get him minutes today. That's the story. So that's for the DFS contest that I will be participating in. I'm going to try to get Satoransky into my lineup because, hey, last time Jake Layman just didn't cut it. It wasn't good in my last tournament of DFS play. I was trying to get a weird lineup going. I figured if I'm going to beat 40,000 people, I got to get weird. Anyway, I think they would like him to play, but there's minutes and just not a good enough stat set to do it in low minutes. So I'm not going to in a 12 or even a 14 team league trying to pick up Satoransky, but he would be somebody that could theoretically slide to small forward and give them an interesting look and additional playmaker on the floor. But no, not in fantasy leagues.
So the only additional note on Markieff Morris is that he is on an expiring contract of $8.6 million this year. So that maybe makes him a tiny bit more movable.
At the deadline, absolutely.
But
I'd
not
have to
yet.
look at some teams in their rosters to figure out which team needs a grumpy power forward.
Every team needs a grumpy power forward.
They do. I think that's why, and I don't know. It just depends on if they're going to fire sale this thing. But the crazy thing about Washington is they can't get out of the John Wall deal. They can't really trade Bradley Beal. So and really, Otto Porter shouldn't be traded either. I mean, he's a good player, and I kind of doubt it's all on him. The minutes issues, and Brooks basically probably looks at which of these guys can I hassle about the effort thing that won't get me fired. Otto Porter's probably that guy.
Poor Otto.
Yeah.
That's
He's a great buy low target still.
Yeah.
If he ever got usage, I mean, we're talking about a top 12, top 15 type of a guy.
Yeah,
so,
but he's not though. Not at least not in Washington.
But I mean, John Wall has issues.
Yep.
I really think that he's got to take a step back, because when you start arguing with the press about your right to drink, you have the right. You absolutely have the right. But you know what? It's just not, for whatever reason, you're not being protected in the media. You're not, that's being a story. And I mean, I've seen too many interviews where I'm like, that dude's hungover. It's like just dripping off him. But
What
mostly,
would you know about being hungover?
Oh man, you just look at me right now. But no, with all seriousness, if you just go based on what the film shows, he doesn't have vertical explosion anymore. He doesn't have the step that he used to have, and he doesn't have the overall top end speed. And when you include a questionable jumper, teams get. I mean, when you have that one thing that a team they can, in this case, just sag off of him, and you also don't have the first step, it turns into like Derrick Rose, probably the 2 to 3 years prior to this, where all your old stuff doesn't work. You're not getting as many calls. It's bogging down the offense. So he's got to get healthy or right. If it's his knee, if it's his mind, whatever the case may be, I could see him, some sort of a cleanup surgery or something that keeps him off the shelf for many, many weeks.
Well, then you look at
as a
Satoransky.
business decision.
Well, then
you look at So I mean, so the question about can Otto Porter get major value?
Oh, those
it's
were
not hard to see.
Those were fun months last year when Wall was out for 7 weeks or whatever it was. Everybody just got so happy in Washington. All the assets. What a time. That was like Thanksgiving.
Isn't that funny how that works?
And then he came back, and it was like the day after Thanksgiving. Break time in the show to talk about stuff we got going on over at the Hoob. You mentioned the DFS contest. What's that all about?
Well, so everybody through the holidays decided, the powers that be at DraftKings and at the Hoob.
At the Hoob.
We decided to postpone our contest until next week, but then Mike Apotria all of us degenerates over here is like, oh, well, we got to have a contest. So we're going to have a contest. It's not within the rules of our agreement to do it the way we would normally do it, but we're still going to get in there and we're going to throw a few bucks in. I'm going to compete. So that's free money for you guys. So that is what's going on with the DFS side of things. Is that what you were asking about, Dan?
Yeah, that's the one. How do people find that thing? Is the link out on Twitter somewhere?
It is. It's probably, I would say, just follow me, Dan, Hoopball Fantasy, Hoopball Tweets. I forget where it's at. I think Mike tweeted it out.
Yeah, he's Mike Apotria. That's Apotria, by the way, on that last name. You are at Aaron Bruski. I'm at Dan Vespers. At Hoopball Fantasy, at Hoopball Tweets are the other Twitter handles. Indeed, looking back, it does appear as though the link is there. It was sent out about 2 hours ago, and it'll probably get sent out again in the not-too-distant future, would be my guess. What else is going on? Can people, say, get the premium membership as part of this DraftKings partnership? Is that a thing? You like that? I'm just here putting the ball on the tee for you. All you got to do is swing.
The only thing you didn't do is use the term question mark.
Question mark?
Your statement.
Yeah, you're right. That's my mistake.
Yeah, no, that's the best. So right now, and that's the way you got to do it anyway. So if you're going to do this the smart way, get free stuff. Go to
be smart.
DraftKings promo page. It's free stuff, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
You deposit $10 as a first-time user, and that gets you the premium membership for the rest of the season. So, and then you can actually use that money to make more money if you follow, like, for instance, the great John Schifferle's DFS picks, because he's a brainiac and he actually does this stuff. Or if you read Mike Apotria's stuff, or the layup line is a great pregame article to sink your teeth into before the games, get set up. Because especially on a 28 game, or 28 team slate, it's hard to keep track of all of the little nuances. Like, for instance, Candace Candace, no, what's her name? The gal that reports at the Washington Post provides a note about, Thomas Satoransky playing more minutes in this game. You got to have all that stuff in one spot. Anyway, I forgot how to talk there for a second, Dan. You go get the free stuff, and then you join the contest. That's the smart way to do this. I told you I was hungover. I told you. I warned you before this show, Dan.
All right. Well, my mistake. I'll start the swing for you next time too. I'll put the ball on the tee
and finish it for me,
and I'll go. It's gonna be like I'll ghost you on a baseball swing. It's gonna be really heartwarming.
I'm like that kid that throws up the 3 pitches to himself. I'm the best pitcher in the world.
All right, let's do fantasy.
Those ads. We need more of those ads.
That is true. I concur. Let's see here. Where are we going next? I still got a list in front of me. I got things to do. Jimmy Butler in Philly. Anything we've learned over the last week other than Wilson Chandler is an old man?
I think I might back off a tiny bit on Ben Simmons' value loss. He's been very tough to own this season already. So it's okay to predict more of the same, I think. But maybe instead of calling him, a guy that's probably, possibly a top 50 to 75 guy going forward, I might dip that down a little bit to say like top 40 to 60 is kind of where I think he might settle in. He could still, surprise us all and go where he was drafted, but I wasn't on board with where he was drafted entirely. I think I had him in the low 24s. But he's been better, and they've just sort of settled in. These are their new roles. I think Joel Embiid is going to continue to be good. He is, he's really embraced the bully ball, and I just love that. He's probably the only big man in the league that's doing that. So, I think that they're going to be good. But, they got Markelle Fultz. I think that's come to a head. That brings TJ McConnell back on the radar. He's an easy late round 9-cat guy as long as there's not any more weirdness. If they're going to play in that 22 to 24 minutes per game, it's just you can put it in stone. That's what he does. So that's a guy that should be on the radar in fantasy leagues. But yeah, no, I think that they've actually survived, and that so far so good. You get Markelle Fultz out of there, and I think that's going to help bring a little bit more oxygen to that team. Having that situation just sort of looming over, because it's not that he's struggling, he's a bad pick, all Oh, it's because he's the number one pick. It's because of the nature of the struggle that he, is just talked about. And I think it's painful to play with somebody that's going through that. I've talked with you a little bit about my own struggles with the yips in baseball. Getting him out of there, I think, will be a good thing for that team.
Do you buy any of the new tinfoil hat stuff going on with Fultz, that it's like a magical bone rearrangement or something like that?
No.
Yeah, I'm not in that one either.
The thing he was doing at the foul line is actually something that I kind of had to think through. When I got the yips with baseball, you just basically, you stop being able to go through your normal motion. And because it's so hard to figure out, you just don't know what to even do about it. So what his thing there, because the hitch, and if you've seen it with Charles Barkley and his swing, his golf swing, the hitch is just like the body shutting down. So what he's doing to stop the body from shutting down is that, that little, I don't know what you would call that on the way up.
Little hot potato, I guess.
Yeah, but it's designed to to stop the hitch. And so there's nothing having to do with the shoulder with that. So I might be uniquely qualified to talk on this. But and Markel, hit me up. I can tell you exactly what I did wrong and what you shouldn't do. But yeah, no, that's all the little man.
Mikal Bridges is the next man on the list. He came off the bench but still played almost 30 minutes. His usage was painfully low. What do we make of that situation in Phoenix?
Yeah, there's a guy named Devin Booker that plays.
Yeah, but other guys find a way to get shots off sometimes.
Yeah, those other guys are TJ Warren, man. If there's anybody that's more aggressive than or as aggressive as Devin Booker, it's that guy. It's funny. I saw some shade from one of our friends, hey, these, Mikal Bridges being overhyped. The dude is returning top 150 value, actually a little bit more, in 19 minutes per game, and nothing seems out of place with his stat set. So that's a floor you can work with. He's getting more minutes than 19. I don't think it's going to be very fun in these next 2 to 3 weeks. I think that he's going to have similar lines, but he's surviving. I think the 3 cash counters he had in the last one, the number 3 there is so big. When you get that third, or average 3, you can have the scoring be off. You can have other things be off. So yeah, no, I think this is a great opportunity if, there's a little bit of a backlash because it seems like he's being overhyped right now, and some of this also I think comes down to how many head-to-head leagues guys playing. There's not a lot of respect out there in 12-team standard leagues for a guy that's bringing back top 150 value, I think, because it's probably, if you're a really good team, maybe you can't use that right now. I don't know why top 150 value, because if you figure 12 teams have 12 players, that's 150 players right there, 144. Most leagues have a 13th player, 14th player, and that means 150 plays. So, yeah, I'm all for it. Pick him up.
By the way, he's now on the season. He's up to number 117 in 20 and a half minutes per game. And over his last...
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he jumped up after that.
Yeah, and that was despite the fact that he had that weird little 5-4 with 3 steals game in 29 minutes. I think that's the number that jumps out, right? That he still played 29 minutes even off the bench.
Well, he's a stabilizing force for them, which is hilarious because he's a rookie. He's a guy that they want to get minutes. And I think what you're looking for here is, especially and I'm not going to wait a lot of moves out to the trade deadline. That's, burned me way too many times in the past. But I think 2 to 3 weeks from now, when they've sort of, settled in, and he's kind of just waiting there. Hey, you guys do your thing, and then I'll go get mine. Which is what a lot of rookies do, especially when you're playing with a lot of ball dominant players. A trade could obviously help them out, but I just think 3 weeks from now, they'll be making more of a concerted effort to get him involved in the offense, a la Chris Middleton.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Next thing on the docket, and I'm trying to, I don't know how I pick on my list. I only have a few things left on this bad boy, and so it sort of doesn't matter. Los Angeles, with Rondo out, these first few games, it actually looks like of all the guys on the team, it's actually been KCP that's benefited a little bit in getting a little more freedom.
Remember I mentioned him a week ago.
Yeah, and it's worked out. He's been very good over the Rondo list streak. His minutes have trended up from about 17 a game to about 26 or 27. He's not doing a ton, but he's doing enough. Is it enough to actually be used is my question for you.
Well, I think they're showcasing him for a trade. That was the impetus behind my thinking that could be a thing. You got Josh Hurt has a sore tendon. I don't have the most recent update on him, but a sore ankle tendon is, to me, I don't know if they spiced up the news report there, but to me it sounds a little bit more serious than your average sprain. If you're really focused on the tendon of it, it's sometimes that's where you get a little bit more of an issue. So if Hart's out, then they really got minutes for Caldwell. I would not add him unless I'm desperate though for production at the shooting guard position. Not enough there.
Yeah, it's close, but not quite. Here's another guy that's been close, but not quite for a while, but seems like maybe he's now close and over the line, and that's my little buddy Jeremy Lin, who I've been tracking all damn season long. His full season numbers still don't look very good because those first few weeks he really was out of sorts, but over the last 2 weeks he's a top 75 guy, shooting unfortunately, an unsustainable 55%. But minutes do seem to be trending his way now as the Trae Young stuff is blowing apart at the seams on what seems to be about a 1 every 3 or 2 every 3 night basis. Jeremy Lin...
Where's the Trae Young people at? They were so loud for a week.
Yeah,
they just disappeared on us.
That's gone away. That didn't last very long. I mean, it's generally accepted, I think, in the fantasy circles too, that Trae Young is going to have a rough season. But is Jeremy Lin over the line now? Is he officially a standard league value?
He is. I mean, I added him last week, and I felt like maybe I paid a little too much for him. But and then I think he dudded on the first game of this week. But
yes, he did.
He's I should ask you, Dan. You would know.
Yeah, I'm on Lin watch on a weekly basis here.
He does look better just physically. I think that was the big problem early. And it's, let's face it, he hasn't played a lot of basketball in 2 years. So him at 27 minutes is the most he'll get. But even in 23 minutes, I think in 8-cat leagues, he can be a serviceable, low-end guy. So if he's going to get 25, 26, because they just need good players on the floor is what it boils down to. And it does hurt a little bit that John Collins is coming back because that keeps them out of these ultra-small lineups. But, I think that you have to take a flyer on Lin unless you're just stacked at guard, because he can get you top 100. And that is right on that line of enough upside to care as much as Dan Besbris cares.
Yeah, too much. Miami is our next stop on the tour of the league. I got a lot of things on this list. It's true. It's what a weird team, Miami. This is my assessment of them. They're never fully healthy. They haven't been in about 3 years now, if I'm not mistaken. So every time I look at Miami, I'm like, well, how is this going to change if they get healthy? It's time, I think, perhaps for me to say they're never going to be healthy, ever, forever. So why am I bothering to analyze what might be when they are healthy? Screw it. I'm going to analyze them with the guys that are actually on the floor right now. And right now, Rodney McGruder is hanging on. Josh Richardson's having a decent year, of course. Hassan Whiteside is playing relatively well. We've actually seen a little life out of Wayne Ellington lately. Can he maintain? Is James Johnson ever going to hit a point where he's worth being owned? Is Goran Dragic going to get his game back? Where is Tyler Johnson in all of this? What the hell should we do with the Heat?
They're just for being hurt all the time, they're still log jammed, and
it's amazing.
So Kelly Olynyk did not play in the last one, and it really raised eyebrows because locally, Ira Winderman, the great beat writer out of Miami, great follow. If you want to know what's going on with his team, the way he does his end of game reports is actually useful. So that puts him in the top 10 percentile of NBA beat writing out there. They didn't play Olynyk in a game they needed scoring. Like, they absolutely couldn't put the ball in the bucket at all. And so something is up there with, the just positionless approach. It's like, it's Spo is a really good coach. Pat Riley is really good operations guy. It's just not working right now, and I think they're getting the worst of it. So what are they going to do about it? I think you look at Wayne Ellington playing. He hasn't played all year. They've sort of, with all of these guys, I think, especially Dion Waiters, said, look, if you're not going to be, like, you're effectively benched, so we're going to call it an injury, and we're going to move you out of the rotation. And Wayne Ellington's at Winderman is talked about in trade pieces all year long, so that tips you off to know that that's the guy that they want to trade. But that's not going to help. They need to do more. If you're...
Are you owning any of these guys?
What's that?
Are you owning any of these guys?
I dropped Kelly Olynyk in a bunch of leagues, and he was a guy that got honorable mention in the HB6, the stat set, just the expectation that he could get just enough minutes. Put him in a place where, as we saw last year, he can get top 80 real quick, and you accumulate that, kind of over the course of a year, and it's. It was based to relative to where he was getting drafted in, probably I think like the 130s range. There was ROI there, but no, you can't if they're not going to give him more than if he has the possibility of playing 11 minutes in the game. I think is what it boils down to. He can't go 11 and then 24 and 11 and 24 and have a game where he's completely out of the the attack, because that's also been happening. They've been so inconsistent with the positionless basketball that there are games where he's out there for his offense. He's not even getting engaged in the game. So he's not only alternating low minutes and high minutes, but he's also alternating being involved and not being involved. And it's just not enough of an ROI there to deal with or keep a roster spot held. You can definitely pick him up, later on. And he could easily turn this around, but you're just now adding James Johnson back to the mix, which is kind of a guy that does similar stuff. I will expect this, though. You don't put a guy like Olynyk out of the rotation for, more than a few games without really having a reason to do so and explaining to him, because he wasn't even told about it. So he was very professional about it, and he had a great response. So what will typically happen in this situation is they're going to give him more minutes and more touches to offset what they just did to him. So right now, it's like, hey, hands off. But don't be surprised if he goes out and puts up a big one. So, but I don't know that changes the equation here. They've got to make a decision. What are they doing with their glut of players? And they got to get rid of somebody like, say, Justice Winslow, who doesn't really have a role. But the hard part that they're getting hit with now is, Goran Dragic's knee doesn't seem right. And Tyler Johnson was kind of on the outs there. He's been hurt, but now they have this gaping hole at point guard. So maybe they can flip Justice Winslow, who they've tried out at point guard. Maybe they can flip somebody like him. They should probably try to trade somebody like Bam Adebayo, who teams are interested in, and give up something to get something. Because you either think he's this, unique diamond in the rough type player, and you go all in on it, or you sell while everybody's still intrigued. It might be the case that in a couple of years, nobody's intrigued anymore. It just depends. Is he going to actually develop into a playmaker and a defensive guy? He's kind of off or on in that regard. Can he actually take a step forward? They got to get a trade going. Otherwise, all bets are off. James Johnson probably doesn't have enough to get it done. All the aforementioned guys are going to struggle. Everybody in Miami will struggle until they get a deal done.
Yeah, I agree. Houston, this one's probably a shorter one. PJ Tucker, James Ennis, Gary Clark. Any update on that sort of three-way 3-and-D thing they've got going out there? It feels like that's really the pecking order order.
This was a classic case of didn't want to evaluate the night before Thanksgiving because you just didn't know what you were going to get, from like a guy like James Harden, for instance. I was looking at Harden in DFS. I had that funky lineup that we'll never ever try again. But what were you going to get out of James Harden? A lot of stars will take that game off, and he went huge. 43 points, 9 boards, or probably 7 boards, 9 assists. So a really big line, and it sucked the oxygen out of the rest of the rotation. So I don't think we should evaluate. Tucker's must own, but Clark got hit hard. and Ennis was actually okay. It might be the case that I flip-flopped. Those two were close anyway, Ennis and Clark. I had Clark over Ennis, but by a hair. Probably flip-flop that. But I wouldn't evaluate that game really too heavily.
Okay, that's fine. Let's evaluate something else. Why are the Indiana Pacers playing so slowly this year? Do we have any idea why they've abandoned running altogether and just all they do is run weird high pick-and-roll sets?
That's the staple of the Nate McMillan experience.
Oh, good Lord. It's atrocious. The whole thing made me nauseous. I watched this game. They had these opportunities to get defensive rebounds and go, and it was defensive rebound. Point guard comes back to collect the ball from the guy who got the board, and they walk it up. I mean, they're getting shots off in the last 6 seconds of the shot clock almost every time. And sometimes it works because, when he's healthy, they have Victor Oladipo, who's very good. But they just got blitzed by Charlotte in their last ball game, and it was because they got no easy buckets.
Well, they also had, Sabonis got hit with an ankle injury in that game, so he was a little bit, out of sorts with the rotation. I just think that when you replace a piece that big in Victor Oladipo, that, especially with a Tyreek Evans-led team, it's never going to be good. It's, and they had, rookie Aaron Holiday is somebody, I mean, he would need an injury to matter in most leagues, but, he's actually made a case for minutes and shown a nice little stat set as well. So I think with the rookie and a Tyreek Evans-led team, and Darren Collison, it's funny when he got picked up by the Kings, everybody's like, oh, he's going to push the pace. He's the guy that likes to walk it up. So it's, it's ugly, but they're going to be good. The Pacers are. And I do think they're going to settle into some fantasy value. The Collisons and maybe even Tyreek Evans might turn a corner here.
Ugh, so tough to get there.
It's tough there, though. And Oladipo's knee, that's not good either.
No, that is not good either. Let's see here. I got 2 things left, and I think we've got time for both. One of them is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm getting killed over here. Bro, I'm getting killed.
Are you getting killed on Twitter?
I'm getting killed everywhere. And I'm not certain why, because no matter how I slice his game last 7 days, number 186, last 14 days, number 134, last 30 days, number 149, season number 159. Why is everybody coming at me? What did I do to you?
You know what you're feeling now, Dan? You're feeling the effect of having a lot of Twitter followers.
I thought I was going to like it. I don't. I want to go back to being anonymous.
Well, I mean, people think we don't like these players. Like but these are just kind of like pissing in the wind comments. Like you don't dislike these guys. I mean,
yeah, we're evaluating them as numbers.
Yeah, we're just evaluating them as fantasy players or even reality players. And, for instance, in Sacramento, they think I hate Bielitsa and I hate Justin Jackson. It's like, no, the team continues to play Justin Jackson and he's getting manhandled out there. Here's the video evidence. Like, it's a story. It is what it is. Anyway, God, what team are we even talking about? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah, why your good friend Dan is getting blasted for telling everybody that a guy's not quite as great from a fantasy perspective as it appears on paper. He's a very weird stat set guy. Like, he's actually good in some areas that can be helpful, but overall, he hasn't been a net positive yet.
That needs a rookie. I think, people just love the shiny new toy, and you're right. There's just just enough semblance of a stat set to keep you on the edge of your seat, but it's just the weights of the numbers and the averages, they just aren't quite there, as you've so dutifully explained on Twitter. Yeah, it could get better for him. Absolutely could get better for him, but it's going to require an injury, and when you get into that territory, you can say that for almost any player in the league. And so I think you do evaluate him as the late round guy, and that's fair.
What do you think what do you think the upside is for a guy like Gilgeous-Alexander? To me, it feels like he needs to add either the assist or the 3-pointer to sort of make that hurdle into like very helpful fantasy player.
Yeah, I think the 3 is probably the most attainable thing, and you never know with defense, what scheme would do. Playing with better defenders, he could, edge upwards that way. But no, the three is going to be the biggest thing. And then the question becomes, can he hit the three in an efficient enough manner to not have it be detrimental to the field goal percentage? Free throw shooting is an area he could improve in. As a rookie, he could probably see a 5-point bump there. So yeah, but that's not. I think these are all kind of next year things. Can he? Probably the best, case study is, can he take steps forward like Karis LeVert? Another guy we don't hate. I actually really like Karis LeVert.
Speak for yourself. I hate him. I hate him just like I hate Giannis too. I'm just gonna lean into it from now on. Screw it. If you guys think I hate these people, I might as well just accept it. Well,
big meanie, Dan.
I'm a big meanie. Although, to be fair, I did warn everybody about Giannis. Whether I hate him or not, I did warn everybody, and his free throw shooting has gotten actually worse year over year. Brutal. Last topic. We got, I think, 3 minutes on the clock here. That should be enough to talk about the Cavaliers, right? They're the last one for good reason. We did get finally an efficient game out of Cedi Osman in their last one before Thanksgiving. Jordan Clarkson decided he wanted to play hard against his former team. Rodney Hood is God knows what on a night-to-night basis. Tristan Thompson has been oddly reliable for the time being. I was hoping we'd get more out of David Nwaba, but it does seem like he's being deployed more as sort of a specialist for that team. He played 24 minutes, picked up 5 fouls on LeBron. I don't know that he would have gotten them if Bron wasn't on the other side. One guy, Osman is the guy, Brew, you and I have talked about a few times on this show as a guy they want to get opportunity for. Can he sustain any kind of efficiency like we saw on Wednesday?
No.
Nuts.
No, you got that game for the Cavs might have been their most important game of the year. So that means everybody's a little bit quieter, a little bit more focused in the locker room before the game. They're, giving their effort and energy, and really the thinking part of the game. That's where young teams struggle. They're as focused as they can be. So you kind of got the best of the best for that game. So Osman just on a bad team. Maybe things improve a little bit when George Hill returns, but he's been more of a liability than a help. So, but I do think there is something to be said for them being consistent a little bit now. You do remove, the J.R. Smith thing was huge, getting rid of him. And, I think the sooner they can get out of the George Hill business, the better. You're going to throw Colin Sexton into the deep end, throw him into the damn deep end. Let him get, 70 some odd games of actual just getting crushed, and just let it happen so you guys can get to know each other in the rotation. When you're constantly cycling guys in and out of the rotation or changing their minutes, it just is impossible to play. And, so I think you might see this team normalize. Like Jordan Clarkson's somebody that folks should be looking at as a late round guy, kind of in the same exact mold of other Jordan Clarkson versions. So you're not going to drop a guy with a lot of value. You're not going to race to go pick up Jordan Clarkson, but if you need a guard, you might race to go get Jordan Clarkson, because he's going to probably, I'm going to say, top 125 the rest of the way, and that definitely plays. Everybody else, Nwaba's stats, that's not good.
What about Hood? Could he potentially get above Clarkson in that department? Because the better from outside, I guess you could argue, better at the free throw line. Does that stuff parlay him to 110, 100, anywhere near there?
I don't think so. I mean, something's not right with Hood.
Something's not right under the hood. That pun was right there for you.
I told you, Dan, I'm barely making it through this show. I'm not gonna get the easy ones. I'm gonna earn every bucket.
All right,
today.
Fair enough. Those are your Cavaliers. They're a mess. That's the bottom line on that thing. Brew, thank you for willing yourself through this thing on the Friday after Thanksgiving. I know the people appreciated it as well. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day and weekend.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all of our followers, listeners, well-wishers, compadres, associates, etc. We can't do this without you guys, and you guys are extremely loyal, and your guys' fervor and vigor has led to some big things for us, and hopefully we'll be able to unroll those in next Friday's show, Dan.
I like the sound of that. He is Aaron Brewski. I am Dan Vespers. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Back with some new guests next week. We'll tell you all about them on Monday. This is Fantasy NBA Today, a hoopball presentation. Adios.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.